to have a meeting and have some speakers. Thanks to our speakers, especially. And definitely thanks to Cutters Insulation for sponsoring this meeting. That's good stuff there. Mostly the CHIP program, we've had 8,333 total certifications in our program to date, 73 so far in 2021. Probably haven't gotten that first big batch for the year. So there's probably plenty more out there that have happened in 2021 that we don't know about just yet. I know I've got several out there waiting on signatures and such. So that number is actually probably a little bit higher. And of course, we're looking to hit that 10,000 milestone this year. And I feels like we're on pace for that still. So I know I've been busy. I'm sure everybody's been busy.
Yeah, on that, Trevor, we are getting batches regularly. I think weekly. I'm getting them from DPIS, which does Great Southern and Stanley Martin. So I believe we're caught up for 2020, and I'm not expecting any more from then. I'm starting to get them now weekly from all through January. I've been getting them. So that's a pretty up-to-date number, except, there's a little lag between what you said. There's sometime between the builder and you and me, there's a little bit of a lag. But I believe you're right. 10,000 should be a doable goal this year.
Yeah. And that's great that they're coming in on a weekly basis too. So that's good stuff. So upcoming events, and I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights. This council, I've been leading this council, I guess, for about a year and a half, 2 years, closing in on. We've got a pretty full agenda this year, and I'm looking forward to being able to have some of these in person in the future. Stan's joining us now. What's up, man? Good to see you. Ned's here. Thanks for coming, y'all. It's really looking like going to be a pretty packed year, and we've got a lot of good ideas for these meetings and things that a lot of feedback from people who wanted to hit these particular topics. So next month is the power lunch, and that one's a little bit up in the air, but of course the virtual International Builder Show is going to be happening in February, and we're trying to tie that into that meeting, or kind of coordinate with that meeting. A power lunch, I guess we could do that on Zoom. I've done plenty of Zoom meetings over the past year. I haven't done a Zoom power lunch yet. I don't know if we've had one of those, but we'll see how that works. And then maybe by March, I know construction personnel is hopefully by the spring able to get vaccinated. I think that's the plan, or what I've heard is we are part of Plan 1C for vaccination. So we all should be eligible for that coming up in the spring. So maybe by March, we're in person.
On that, Trevor, I've talked with Mark Nix upstairs with the state HBA, and there's a bit of confusion. The construction could be in Group 1B, which is the next one to come open. Depending who's reading it and who you talk to on the phone and what day, 1B could be the deal. So as soon as we get clarification on that, we'll send out the word. But it's looking like we might be as good as later this month or even next month.
There we go. So we can all get vaccinated and see each other in person, hopefully soon. The next meeting like this would be in March, and we wanted to do a ventilation meeting with attics and ventilation. As far as I know, that's stuff we've talked about, but we've never had a meeting on that subject. And that actually ties in with insulation installation, because a lot of times those baffles are being installed by the insulators. So that could be a good topic for us, I think, and the sponsorship is still available for that one. And then April, Habitat for Humanity. Oh, so we're talking about a mixer with the Remodelers Council, I know, that month. And then in May, we've got the crawl spaces meeting, another subject. We've talked about that one some, I know, in the past, but there's some other areas of that we could touch on. And we got meeting sponsors for a lot of this stuff already, which is encouraging. Let's see here, August, we wanted to talk about the 45L tax credit. I know I've brought that up a few times before. That's $2,000 to the builder tax credit for energy efficiency. It's been out there for a while, good many years. It is officially signed into the federal budget for 2021. So the terms of it are not going to change for 2021. And then, I mean, I would imagine though 2022, they're going to change it somehow and change the parameters of it in 2022. And hopefully by then we have a decent idea of what those parameters are going to be. There's always plenty of discussion about it in ResNet and stuff, but it is something that probably needs to be updated, and August would probably be a good time to talk about that. And then the next meeting, quarterly meeting, would be November, and that one will be sponsored by DPIS and the future of HERS. Something I'd be interested in attending and possibly talk about other competing energy indexes out there with HERS. Those products have been starting to come out for a couple of years now. So I've been watching those closely. HERS is pretty well established thing though. So there'd be plenty of good discussion on all that. But anyway, that's kind of glossing over the year. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and things should be going back to normal here pretty soon, I think, with the vaccine coming out. So a lot of things that have been put on hold or will be planned for this year. So I guess we'll go ahead and get right into the meeting here. Chase Green from Cutters Insulation is going to talk to us about bat and blown insulation. And we'll go ahead and let him start with his part of it. And appreciate you doing this with us, Chase.
Yeah, of course. It was a little last minute, but they called me about 2 hours ago and told me I was doing it. So my name is Chase Green. I'm with SRI Cutters Insulation here in Columbia. We do bat blow, we do some spray foam, as well as gutter, garage door, shower door, mirror shelving, a litany of things. But here we're focused on insulation, and they gave me kind of what to go over as kind of code of what we're looking at. So, you know, R13 in the walls, R30 blow in the attic. If it's not reachable for blow, you can do R30 bat in the attic, and then R19 under the floor. Pretty simple on what we do. I know it really started about a year ago in Richland and Lexington counties. Changed a lot for us is they started the new draft stop inspections being prior to insulation. They looked at the draft stop, but it's hard to look at the draft stop when it's covered up by fiberglass. So they started these separate draft stop insulations, which is probably really good for the customer because you can actually see if the draft stop is being done properly, but it does make it a lot harder for our guys. They have to do everything perfectly because it's seen. But that does do a lot for how well the house insulates, because fiberglass can only do so much if air is allowed to move willy-nilly through the house. So the draft stop knocking down how well air can move from inside to outside, as well as newer products like zip board and that kind of stuff, really help the insulation do its job. So, you know, it's kind of it. Like I said, I wish they would have given me a little more time to prepare, but if there's anything y'all want, specific questions y'all want to ask, please feel free, because like I said, they never told me what really to talk about. So we can go with some questions and go from there. Anybody?
Yeah, Chase. So sometimes it's R13, sometimes it's R15.
That's up to builder discretion. R13 is the code. You know, that is the minimum you are required in a 2x4 stud wall. If it's a 2x6 stud wall, then R19 is required because you have to have enough insulation to fill the cavity. Insulation needs to be touching both sides of the cavity. But some builders use R15 as an upgrade. Some of them use it as their standard. It is an upgrade over R13. The more R value you can stuff in a space, the better it's going to insulate.
And supplies wise, I know we were talking about supply. I mean, is it just as available as R13 right now?
They're both pretty hard to find at the moment. R15 is a little less available at the moment just because it takes more fiberglass to make. So they're focusing on what most companies use, which is R13. But you can get them. Like I said, we're usually on like a 1 week spread. You know, we order it a week later, it shows up at the door. Now I think it was like 28 days from the time it ordered to the time we get it, with a lot of our distributors being completely out. We typically order John Mansville direct, and they're the ones telling us 23 to 28 days, with it seeing out at the 28-day mark.
Okay. And, you know, I've seen some builders who have come back and who were doing R15, and now they're saying, well, maybe I want to do R13. They're saying maybe there's a bigger difference in cost between those two. I remember it seemed like 4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't hardly anything, or, you know, I didn't hear much talk about that, but maybe the supply shortage has that changed?
It's more of a price increase on the manufacturer side. Overall, insulation went up in 2020 around 8% of what we're purchasing it for, but everything went up differently, and R15 went up more than R13. R15 is a more technical, difficult thing to make because it is a high density bat. It's the same, same width as R13. It's 2 3/4, so it fits, or 3 3/4, fits inside a 2x4 stud. But it has more fiberglass stuffed into it. So it has gone up in price a little more than R13 has, which is why some of them are switching back to 13. But it's still, for what you're getting, it's typically worth the upgrade if you're where you want to spend your money is in insulation, if that's something that's important to you, which it probably should be.
I try to tell builders that it seems like it is worth it. I mean, I got some builders who were always R15, R38 in the attic, and, you know, they come back and they say, well, run the manual J's or the load calculations with R13, R30. And I see a bigger difference there probably than in her scores. You know, then it winds up costing you more on the HVAC part of it. You know, if you want to be 900 square feet a ton or something like that.
Right.
So I do see a difference. And then the 45L certifications I was mentioning earlier, it really seems to make a big difference on those models too. So
if you're going to save the money somewhere, save it in the walls over the attic. The attic is much more important to how well a house insulates than the walls are. Not saying the walls aren't important, but a lot of that you can cover up with a good draft stop. Doing a very intense draft stop, doing the base plates, doing all your corner posts, doing inside the cavities at the base plate and at the top plate. stopping that air from moving in the first place will go a long way to helping kind of come over that R13 to R15. But if you want to save money somewhere on the insulation, save it in the walls, blow 38 minimum in the attic. You know, that's just, your air likes to go up and down. It doesn't really like to go side to side. So you want to stop it from going the direction it likes to go.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting with this draft stop inspection they're doing. I don't know if you have to, I don't know if that's a whole day for a builder or what, but you know, on the blower door test, just making the house tighter, there's always a lot of crossover between draft stop and you know, sealing the house up. So
a good draft stop can drop you, you know, 2 or 3 notches on a Hirschboard. Just doing a solid draft stop.
Yeah, blower door test can definitely help on that end. Especially, I think, I don't know, some people don't believe in top plate seal. Some people do. I'm a big fan of it. You know, some guys say it, you know, if you don't put the right, like you put fire stop foam up there for a top plate seal, it pushes it out further, which I wouldn't recommend fire stop foam, maybe, you know, but the white foam,
the window door foam, yeah,
seems to work a lot better. I don't know what you guys typically like to use for that.
We typically use fire caulk, but it's all in the application. You don't want to go in there with fire caulk and have the gun on full blast and dump half a can in that. You know, you turn the gun down real low and you just lay a nice bead. You know, kind of like you're doing caulk or something. You just lay a nice bead. You won't have enough material there to expand too far. And sometimes it even looks like when you're doing it, you're not putting enough foam there to cover the gap, but it will expand out to cover it. That just comes from having good installers and having guys who, you know, I've seen some poor draft stops with new installers and whatnot, and it all comes from having that gun turned way up on the back and just dumping tons of foam there, which is not what you want to do because it will mess stuff up. And even with window and door foam, when you draft stop your window and doors, when you foam them, close them. Because I've seen, you know, them bow in and you can't get the windows closed, or a door being open and then you having to shave the jamb, because that window and door foam doesn't expand as hard, but it still expands and it will push in a lightweight window if they're not closed and sealed.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know about that. I've seen fire foam in windows before and kind of wondered about it, but yeah, I haven't thought about that with the window foam. All right. So I guess we'll move on to Dustin's part if he's ready to go on. I will say, I mean, the fiberglass and bad installation and different materials, I mean, this is some underrated work these guys are doing, and it's hard work. And I feel like it becomes a bit of an afterthought about, you know, doing a quality job installing bad insulation and so forth, but it does make a difference on houses. And when I'm doing manual J's, when I'm modeling houses, you know, guys who want 900 square feet a ton, you know, there's some builders and some insulation jobs that I feel a lot better about doing that. And then, you know, some houses, you know, where it's, you know, they're not willing to invest in it. You know, I don't feel good about 800 or 900,000 square feet per ton on the HVAC, because I know that bonus room's going to get hot. And you know, it's an important part of the whole thing to building an efficient house.
And frogs are tricky. The frogs are tricky. And then last little tip on fiberglass: if you ever have to deal with it, take a cold shower when you get home.
Cold shower.
Cold shower is the trick. Hot shower, let that.
Maybe that's been my problem. Yeah.
You have a couple questions in the chat.
Oh, I haven't even taken a look at that part of it. See if I can make it happen. All right.
Yeah, so the first one says, what's the code amount for R values, and would it be advantageous to go higher? Code is R30. It has diminishing returns up to about R50, R60, but there is a definite advantage to going higher. We typically will do an R30, a 38, or a 50, kind of sold as your good, better, best. But there are big differences just between 30 and 38, and then big difference between the 38 and 50. When I'm dealing with homeowners, a lot of times I'll tell them, 30 is enough to keep up, 38 is enough for it to cut off sometimes, and 50 is enough for kind of get ahead. That's not always true. That depends on the house and other things going on. That's hard to deal with when you're dealing with all kinds of stuff. But the more blow you can put in the attic, definitely the better off.
Yeah, the other advantage of that, I don't know if you've run into this, it's kind of starting to become a thing and should become code at some point in the future. Guys who want to bury the ductwork in the blown insulation, there's a lot of energy savings potential out of that, and it makes a huge difference on the models. I know, but have you encountered that? Or
No one's asked us to do it. If we have ductwork on the ground, we will blow around it enough everywhere else. A 30 is not going to come up very high on it because it's only 12 inches of roughly 12 inches of attic blow. But if you're blowing an R50 like in a Stanley Martin house, then you're blowing 17.5 inches. It's going to cover a lot of that ductwork. No one's asked us to go ahead and blow over the top and seal them yet, but I could see how it being beneficial.
yeah, all right.
And then the other question was about sound transmission and batting interior walls for sound transmission. We do it a good bit in custom built homes. Most of the sound stuff we'll do is media rooms, if someone has a media room, and then bathrooms, doing water closets, doing around tubs and showers and that. Not so much between bedrooms. It happens sometimes, people want it. The issue with doing fiberglass for sound transmission is not that fiberglass doesn't work great, because it does. It'll knock down low pitch sounds pretty well. High pitch sounds will still get through it, but it knocks down a vast majority of like just speaking noise. The problem is when you're doing something where there's a lot of bass involved, that sound is going to transmit through the wood. So it's going to just bypass your sound insulation and just go right through the wood. So for media rooms and that kind of deal, when you're, especially if they're like in a basement and you're worried about above it, drop ceilings where you can put insulation in the drop ceiling and do that kind of keeping it away from the wood helps, because anytime you have dealing with a bass noise or something that's going to vibrate something, it's just going to go through that 2x4 into the next room. And there's really nothing you can do about it without setting off from the 2x4s and going through a lot of work.
All right, and let's see if we got any other questions coming in about this part of it. I have one question. I was talking about the work that's involved in it and so forth. What is the state of the industry as far as labor is concerned for insulation? I know I've heard a lot of guys are, people are looking for guys, but
it's getting more and more difficult to find quality installers. And most of the installers we have are older guys who've been doing it a long time. And it's been very difficult for us to find the younger guys who want to do it and stick with it, because it's hard, itchy, dirty work. It pays well, it's piece rate. So you go out there and put up what you put up and you make your money, but you have to be quick enough to be able to make your money there. But it's been harder to find young guys who want to do it. And a lot of times, unfortunately, you find a young guy and you stick them doing crawl spaces, one, because they're easy and he can learn, but two, because these older guys can't do them anymore. Their knees are shot and they can't go under houses. And then they get so burned out from only doing crawl spaces that they quit. So it's trying to find that balance of like, hey, this guy can do it and he's going to do it well and do it quick, but also like you can't burn them out. So it has been more difficult to find installers and training installers. It takes a good month to train an installer to be competent on their own.
Yeah. All right. And we can probably, I don't see any more questions coming up on the group chat, but if anybody is technically challenged on that part of it, you can chime in on the, just unmute your microphone if you got any other questions you'd like to ask. Of course, we can always circle back around to it as well. But at this point, I think maybe we'll go to Dustin to talk about spray foam insulation. There's, I see a lot of open cell around this market, closed cell, maybe not quite as much, maybe more in Charleston and stuff, but crawl spaces, you see closed cells. So I'll appreciate Justin coming to talk to us about that part, and I'll let you take it from here, man.
All right, you are correct. We are the Carolinas is an open cell market. So Ben, do you have the PowerPoint that I sent over to you? Look at that, perfect. So just so while he's getting that ready, so I am not a contractor. I am a sales rep for Huntsman Building Solutions. So I'm a chemical salesman. So I would sell to people like Chase and Charles Lucas that are on here. Charles, thanks for inviting me to this. So most of you probably haven't heard the name Huntsman Building Solutions. It is a publicly traded, family-owned company, $8 billion chemical company that they bought 3 spray foam companies over the last 3 years. I was the Demilec rep, and then we just recently bought Icing and Lapola. So we just recently merged. The sale went through May 2020, and then we just 100% merged January 4th. So we are now all under Huntsman Building Solutions. So that's who I am. I've got a short video to show you. It's about 4.5 minutes, and then I've got a few slides, and then we'll get into it. So hopefully this video works. Man, we were having some difficulties emailing it back and forth. So
I have to find that video. I'm not sure if I got that. Did you email that to me? Or do you have it? Either. If I can find it. Here we go.
It has always been the mission of the men and women who work in the insulation industry to help ensure the efficiency of your home and the comfort of your family. Within the walls of your home, you celebrate birthdays, raise children, play with your pets, and create memories. Behind those walls and ceilings, we strive to ensure that you have the best possible insulation products to reduce utility bills, maintain comfortable temperatures, and improve indoor air quality. Today, with advancements in chemistry, equipment, training, and education, the best possible insulation material is spray polyurethane foam. Other insulation products are porous and do not seal small cracks, irregular shapes and surfaces where conditioned air can escape. The spray foam industry has come a long way, especially in the last 15 years. You may not know much about today's spray foam, or you may have heard myths, proponents of less effective inferior methods, sometimes falsely promoted. Maybe you've heard the myth, the effectiveness of insulation is determined by R value alone. This is false. The truth is, R value literally goes out the window if it is not properly air sealed. Spray foam has high R value and air seals all in one. Maybe you've heard the myth, spray foam insulation isn't healthy to install in your home. False. The truth is, spray foam insulation manufactured by trained professionals following strict processing guidelines poses zero health risks to the end user. Once properly installed, it's a completely safe plastic, much like the plastic bag around your sandwich. This is why schools, hospitals, daycares, and government buildings all choose the high performance of spray foam insulation for new projects as well as renovations. Maybe you've heard the myth, spray foam insulation will damage your wires and pipes. False. The truth is, studies now show when properly installed, spray foam insulation does no damage to wires, PVC and CPVC pipes, or any other building products inside the wall cavity. Maybe you've heard the myth that a house needs to breathe. Spray foam makes a building too tight, or spray foam causes condensation. False. The truth is, despite the old adage, a building needs to breathe, we know now the implementation of modern insulating and air sealing techniques in the building envelope can produce a home or building that is more comfortable, healthier, and more energy efficient. By insulating and thoroughly sealing the building envelope, you control the breathing through the home's mechanical systems. Building professionals are acknowledging that new building science techniques have rewritten the rules, and the current mantra is build tight, ventilate right. Spray foam is delivered to your home in a truck equipped with highly advanced fluid technology equipment designed to deliver the safest and most effective products possible. Did you know spray foam improves indoor air quality? Spray foam material provides a superb seal to your home and structures, acting as a high-performance thermal, air, and moisture control solution, all in one. A well-sealed building allows for controlled and filtered ventilation of the building. Studies show allergic reaction and asthma attacks triggered by dust, pollens, and particulates are significantly reduced in homes with spray foam insulation. Spray foam increases structural strength. Research shows that spray foam can increase the racking strength of exterior walls up to 300% greater than walls without it. Closed cell spray foam adds structural strength and quite literally glues a building together, thereby making it more resistant to racking events such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and high winds. Here are some of the benefits of spray foam insulation. Spray polyurethane foam is environmentally friendly, contains no formaldehyde, saves energy, and reduces the uses of fossil fuels, thereby reducing our footprint on this planet. You can even request spray foams with no ozone-depleting chemicals. Spray foam is a result of many decades of evolution in insulation. Due to the lack of insulation options, newspapers became a popular choice in the early 1940s. In the mid-1950s, fiberglass batting quickly became the norm and continued to improve over the decades. Blown-in insulation becomes mainstream for attic insulation, with the most advancements in the 1980s and 1990s. Today, the industry continues to evolve with the highest technological advancement yet. Spray polyurethane foam is quickly becoming today's insulation of choice. Over the years, building science, technology, and materials used to keep your home comfortable in the harshest summer and winter climates have changed dramatically, but our purpose, your comfort, your safety, and commitment to efficiency has remained constant. For more information and product details, contact your local spray foam professional.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. If you want to start that back up, we'll dig into it. So,
Okay. Let's see. Where's the PowerPoint? There it is. Share. And then from the beginning. Okay.
there we go. You can go to the next slide, please, and then the next one. So I'm gonna talk about spray foam from a small perspective. You go to the next slide, please, Ben. So here's basically the breakdown. If you look on the left, that is a picture of a magnetized open cell, and on the right is closed cell. Open cell is sometimes called a low density spray foam or half pound foam. Basically what that means is if you were to cut a cube, a 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot cube of open cell, it's going to weigh a half pound. And on the right side is closed cell, and that would actually weigh 2 pounds per cubic foot. So 5 different things that are in spray foam: polyols, catalysts, blowing agents, flame modifiers, and surfactants. The catalyst just basically allows the reaction to take place while it keeps the temperature down. The blowing agent is actually what causes it to have R value on the closed cell side. And on the open cell side, the blowing agent is actually water. The flame modifiers are just something that we add. So TCPP that gets us past every all the flame restrictions and everything. And then the surfactant is another chemical that is actually in shampoo. It just helps with surface tension. Back to the top of it, which was polyols. We actually make our own polyols. We actually recycle pop bottles every year. Up to in 2019, we actually recycled our 600 millionth pop bottle. A little selling point. A lot of people love, especially when we got a builder on the program. That's one of the things that they talk about. Our closed cell is actually tinted green because of those pop bottles. So they say that if you spray a house with our foam, I can't speak for everyone's foam, but with ours, if you spray your whole house, you actually have 4,000 plastic bottles in your house that have been recycled. So the reason one is open and one is closed is the blowing agent. So the open cell foam is actually the blowing agent is water, so it actually creates steam, which causes those cells to open. And then on the right side, the closed cell, you see that it's closed. We actually trap gas in those closed cells. That's actually what gives you its R value. So in the video, they talked about the no ozone depleting. The new blowing agent that's out right now is HFO. It's basically like a person breathing. I mean, there's no ozone depleting. There's no global warming potential. So it's a great molecule. You guys were talking about, well, actually Chase and I were mentioning some hardships. So our raw material hardships right now are the flame retardants and the blowing agents. So very difficult to get right now. So we're having a tough time keeping up with demand. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next part. So open cell, the open cell on the left side, the 1/2 pound foam is actually an air barrier and an insulator all in one. So, they were talking about the difficulty with damp proofing and everything like that. This actually provides its own air barrier. So 3.5 inches in some open cells, 3 inches in others is actually an air barrier. And you're going to get anywhere between 3.7 to 3.9 R per inch on that open cell. And on the closed cell side, same principles. You get an air barrier at a lot less rate. We don't even actually measure the perms on that. But then you also get an insulator, a much better insulator, around an R7. We've got an HFO right now that's a 7.5 per inch, but it's also a vapor retarder. So all closed cells are going to be a class 2 vapor retarder. The best closed cell that we have on the market right now is HFO Pro, which is a 1-inch vapor retarder. So we've got guys that put those in crawl spaces, and they use that just because they know they're going to keep the vapor down at 1 inch. And then we've got other ones that are about 1.6, 1.625 class 2 vapor barriers. Go ahead to the next one, please. So this is actually a picture of what spray foam looks like. Now, I believe that's actually a roof deck, but let's imagine that that's a crawl space. Someone asked the question, how do you keep the fiberglass up there? And yes, you use tiger teeth and everything like that. We don't need to add anything like that. Ours actually sticks directly to the substrate. So they would spray directly on the substrate. It's going to stick. It is going to be very difficult, I'm sure Chase and I know Charles have seen it, to try to pry that off. There's no gaps, there's no cracks, there's no seams, there's no tiger teeth, there's nothing that's holding it up. So when you spray that to a wall, when you spray that to a roof deck or to a crawl space, it's sticking to whatever it sprays to. You spray it out in the open, it gets on a car, it's going to stick on a car. So we, because of that, we have to make sure that all the people that spray our chemicals are fully licensed. All of Charles' guys, they've all been certified by our guys, make sure they know what they're doing. All of our stuff is air barrier certified, vapor retarder, air barrier, all in one. So go ahead to the next one. This is a picture. I actually go back and forth with my engineers, and I actually agree with what Chase said. You lose most of your heat from the roof deck. Now, that's why I go back and forth with them. And what they tell me is that this actually is a picture of a house that would have no insulation in it at all. I don't know what states allow that or not, but what they're telling us is if that happens, you lose 35% of your energy through the walls, 25% through the roof, 15% through the floors. I do agree that if it's insulated with blown in or fiberglass or whatever it is, that would actually flip and you will lose most of it through your roof deck. So that's lots of energy loss through there. And actually, you know, even with the fiberglass or the cellulose, I think you still lose a lot. Go ahead to the next slide if you would. This picture right here, and this is what we're getting at. This is a picture of one of our tech guys' house out in the Midwest somewhere. I think it's in North Dakota. If you see at the roof, you can obviously tell which side has been insulated well and which side hasn't. It's a cathedral ceiling on the left side. It's actually it's a 2-story on the right side, but I've never been in it. This is just what I'm told. Actually, it's an attic space on the right side. That's what it is. So he came back. It was all fiberglass insulation. He obviously couldn't get to the cathedral side on the left, and that's where you see he's losing a lot of energy through that side. On the right side, it's doing a good job of insulating, but they didn't wrap the rafters, so you can still see that thermal bridging through the rafters. So he's got R30 on the left, conventional insulation, fiberglass, and he's got R20 spray foam on the right. Go ahead and enter for me one time. And you can definitely see just by the way that envelope is leaking energy on the left side, that R20 spray foam is not the same as R30. Now the code, we can't do anything about the code whenever you're going to do something prescriptive. You have to spray the R value, but with performance based, we can definitely prove that R20 spray foam is better than R30. Go ahead to the next one. So to prove that, we did this study. This is actually the Tennessee Valley Authority. They did this study. They built 2 identical houses side by side. No one lived in them for a year. They went over there every day, and they ran the shower. They turned the lights on. They ran the TV. They ran the washer and dryer, and they just measured how it would work. The one on the left was conventional insulation. The one on the right was open cell spray foam. They metered both houses differently. So they actually metered the whole house, and then they metered the HVAC system. So if you see on the left for the conventional in May, the total cost of energy in that house was $230, and the AC cost was $107. That identical house, I got to move this so I can see it. The identical house in May, the whole house was $111, and then the AC cost was $47. So you actually save a significant amount of cost whenever you spray foam the roof deck. This is one of the major selling points whenever we've got builders that are offering this as an upsell, is just this savings alone in itself pays for the house. I mean, you're talking $60 a month. So if you're looking at this house, let's say it's a $200,000 house, the amortization schedule over 30 years, you know, let's say your payment's $900. But then you were to add an energy upgrade to spray foam, and that's a $5,000 upgrade. You're adding $20 onto your payment possibly, but you're saving $60 a month. So you're actually saving $40 a month. So one of the things our builders do is they always talk in negatives. You know, how much is it going to cost me? Well, it's going to cost you negative $40 a month. It pays for itself right off the bat. So this is a big selling tool for us. Next slide, please. This is just a comparison and contrast of the various insulation types. I know that you know, spray. Obviously, I'm biased because I am a spray foam salesman, but I definitely think that if someone is in the market, can pay for it, and understands the science of it, I do think the spray foam is a good way to go. So, and that's it. That's it right there.
All right, we'll stop here.
No, and if there are questions, I'm sure to be on the contractor side. Chase, Charles, I'm going to need you to chime in, as I am not the contractor. So,
Okay.
let's see. Best of the whole basket.
All right, very interesting stuff. I'm trying to see if I have any. So you did mention the price difference there for a regular house might be a $5,000 difference, but then you start looking at all the different factors, and it might even make more sense to go the other way.
Let's see, was it Do you ever insulate interior walls in order? That might have been a question for.
That was my question for Chase, but does that apply
Yeah.
to you guys? Do you ever do sound dampening for?
Yeah, we do that a lot. You always do it with open cell foam. Closed cell foam will actually make it worse. It'll actually vibrate and echo off of it. It'll be terrible. So yeah, we do open cell quite a bit in floor systems. So
It's like Jesse has a question. Is there spray foam with flame retardant included in it?
if we had one, we would be rich. They all have flame retardants in it, but they all have to have a intumescent coating painted on there per code, or they have to have an ignition barrier inside of it. It all depends on where you're putting it. It depends on the attic, how the attic is set up. If the attic is set up where there is storage, where someone can get up into the attic easily, you're putting boxes, there's a full-size door, there's a floor down, you're going to have to paint that with a coating, which is a 15-minute thermal barrier. So that's what gives the spray foam the 15-minute thermal barrier, is the intumescent coating. If you've got an attic that is only access for utilities, or no one can get up in there, then you can leave it uncoated. So it would just be the spray foam. So our spray foam actually has the ignition barrier. It has passed the ignition barrier test, so it basically has the ignition barrier built into it. So as long as there's no storage up there, you don't need to coat it. And you've all heard DC 315 or Blaze Lock or TPR2. Those are the intumescent coatings that we're talking about.
Okay. All right.
Anytime you've been in a restaurant, look up, and if you see spray foam, it's going to be black, most likely, maybe white. That is the coating that they put on there in order to separate that foam from the actual living space by a 15-minute thermal barrier. So that's the coating on there that gives it the color.
And for what you guys are doing, do you find more, or kind of how much business are you getting doing the roof and not doing the walls, or doing both, or what kind of mix are you seeing there? Because I know a lot of houses, it's spray foam on the roof and then they'll bat the walls.
Yeah. If it comes down to that, and Charles, if you're on here, you might want to chime in right now. But if it comes down to money, then we would always recommend doing the roof deck for sure. And the main reason that is most of the time the utilities are in the attic. So you want to condition that attic space. That way your utilities are actually in a conditioned space. It's just like putting a treadmill up in your attic. How good are you going to be running on the treadmill in the attic whenever it's 172 degrees up there? If that's conditioned, you'll be able to run longer, last longer, everything like that. So we'd like you to condition that space. That also stops your ducts from sweating and everything like that. So if it's a choice, I would always say the roof deck, and then bat the walls if it comes down to that. Charles, do you know, if you're on here, how many whole house versus hybrids like that you're doing?
I'd probably say 70% of the houses we're doing now, we're foaming the roof deck. That's pretty standard now. We're probably not doing any fiberglass in the attics, probably the last couple years. So probably 20-30% of them are getting probably spray foam on those exterior walls. Yeah. But 100% of my builders now are all foam roof decks.
Perfect. Good people they are.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
We have a question. I don't know if you got to it. How long is the cure time between the application of foam and coating with the intumescent?
We usually say a day at least. I mean, foam is going to set up, within 8 to 10 seconds. But just temperatures and whatnot, try to get that temperature out, especially with closed cell. It does have a little bit more of an exotherm. So, we'd like you to do 24 hours at least. We're always going to lean on the conservative side for that.
I'll give the other guys a second if they got any more questions. They might want to ask about spray foam. We can always come back to it though.
All right.
Yeah. Trevor, the other thing I had that we talked about for this meeting was the spider insulation, and that seems to be kind of a hybrid between a blown and a foam, and I don't think anyone talked about that yet. I do have a video I can show if anybody wants to see how spider works. I can bring that up, and that's
Yeah,
only
I think that'd be good. We did have one question come in from Tim about the maximum thickness for closed cell foam. I've never thought about that because I've never seen it, but a couple inches. So
I think that'd probably be a money factor, wouldn't it?
yeah, it would be, but I wonder how thick you could make that stuff.
What do you say, Charles or Justin? What's the thickest you would want to put on a spray foam, a closed cell foam?
Well, you've got in the northern climates, you've got R49 in the roof deck, so that's that's around 7 inches of closed cell, 8 inches of closed cell spray foam. Now, with the new molecule, the HFO molecule, you can spray that. Let me go back. The old blowing agents that you had would get too hot, so you'd have to spray these about 2 inches. You let it cool for a long period of time. You come back and you put 2 more inches on it. You let it cool. You come back with the new spray foam molecule that we have, the HFO molecule. You can actually spray that in cooler temperatures up to 6.5 inches in one pass. So you saw the video of the guy holding the gun down and filling the wall cavity. Closed cell spray foam doesn't react like that. It doesn't blow up like that. You usually put it on 1 inch at a time. Well, with the new molecule, you can actually spray 6.5 inches at a time. So, I mean, the most that anyone ever asks for, and it's usually the people that are coming from the north down here, they ask for an R49, which would be about 7-8 inches, and we usually talk them out of that pretty quick. I've got a chart that actually shows the loss when you get to a certain point. Every inch you add, you're only adding about 0.01% more energy efficient, but you're adding thousands of dollars. It just doesn't make sense. So you reach a point of diminishing returns where it just doesn't make sense. So R49 is the most. I don't know what the code is in Quebec or anything like that. I'm maybe R60. I have no idea what it is, but that's the most I've ever seen. We've had some 6.5, 7 inch applications.
All right. And I think that answers Jesse's question of thickness per pass as well. All right, well, let's take a quick look at spider insulation, and then if anybody else has any more questions, please type them into the box here. Spider is a neat little thing. I don't know if it's even available in Columbia. We asked some of our speakers to speak to it, but nobody really installs here. So this is kind of an academic pursuit, but just to know what's out there that you might hear about. Let's see if I can get this going here. Here we go.
Hey, I'm Bruce with Retouch. Today we're going to talk to you about a little bit of insulation. One of our projects, the guys were here on the second floor of this house blowing in insulation. What we're talking about today is Spider. It's a particular product that we really like here at Retouch. It's the white stuff that's right here behind me. Most insulation that you're used to is a batt insulation. It's got a paper backing on it. It just sits right inside the bay. It gets you typically about an R13 in today's standards. What we've got here is the product called Spider. It's an R15. It's actually 2% more of what the insulation is, which probably doesn't sound like a whole lot to you, but what we've actually got is a product that's blown into the wall that fills all of the cavity and all of the void. So today's standards, they want to see 6 sides of insulation. This actually gets you all 6 sides, meaning every surface will be touched all the way around. A batt insulation only sits in the bay, and it causes cavities and voids where that batt doesn't sit flush. That's where you lose a lot of air and a lot of energy through those spaces. With this product, you don't lose that air or that energy. It makes it a much, much more efficient product for you to use. Today, what you'll see is not only the finished product like you've got here, but we're also going to take you downstairs and show you what the guys are doing as they're blowing it in, so you can actually see the product being done firsthand. It's a really cool process. Come check it out. Okay, so we're down on the first floor. As you can see behind me, the guys are actually blowing it into the cavities. You'll notice as he's blowing through, he's he's going pretty slow. He's making sure he's got the full coverage of that entire bag. So that way we get every inch of insulation where it needs to be. It looks kind of like it's snowing. The guys come in, one guy's blowing it, the next guy behind him actually comes in, sucks up the extra material that's being sprayed, and they cycle it back through and run it right through the system. It's a really efficient way, not only in the installation, but also in the final product as well.
All right. So that's Spider. It's a little hybrid action there. It's kind of like the stuff you see in your attic for the blow, but it just sticks right into the cavity. And then you shave it off. If you saw at the very end, the guy's shaving it off right down to the stud level. Interesting stuff. And R15.
I've seen that around Charlotte some, actually a good bit around Charlotte. I haven't seen it here that I can recall, but it's something that's out there. And I mean, it's going to be perfect. There's no wrinkles or, compression, anything like that. So, yeah, and it looks good. It looks good if you're bringing the buyer through the house for a pre-drywall walk or something like that. It's a nice clean look, but the open cell and you can always face staple bats that kind of, helps from a aesthetic standpoint, selling the house. So.
All right. Well, Trevor, I think we've covered everything we're looking to cover here today on installation. I'd like to thank one more time Chase from SRI Cutters. Thanks to SRI Cutters Installation for sponsoring the meeting today. We really appreciate that. Also, thanks to Charles Lucas and Kelly for hooking us up with Huntsman. And thanks to Dustin for joining us today and telling us about the spray foam installation as well. That's all we have. If you have any more questions, please feel free to stick around. If you want to unmute yourself or turn on your video and chat with the other folks in the room, we'd certainly encourage that. I'll leave the room on for a while. Our next meeting, just so you have it, I'm working for something perhaps during IBSX. The International Builder Show is all virtual, February 9th through 12th. If you're an NHB member, you can get a floor pass for free at buildersshow.com. Go check that out, get your free show pass for the floor so you can see all the exhibitors. They have quite a few of them lined up. You can see that all on the website. There's tons and tons of education. You can buy a pass for $250 to see the education. I downloaded a list of green building education that's coming up all week, and there's quite a bit. And it's all about insulation will be covered in there, lots of different insulation, detailing roof wall intersections, energy law, how to insulate around concrete is in there. We didn't talk about that today, but that'll be one of the sessions. Venting, indoor air quality, sheathing, insulation over wall sheathing is a session that they have. You might want to check that out. Getting cavity insulation right. We didn't really talk about getting all those weird cavities where your walls come together and making sure you get all the insulation in there properly. That's a energy sink that you might not realize you're having until you get a professional like Trevor out there with his infrared camera pointed at those corners. So that's a session. There's new products in high performance building, all kinds of education going on. I'm going to see if I can line up anything and we can do one of these calls and maybe look at some of that together, but keep an eye out on your emails for that. And we'll be back in March, hopefully in person, maybe a hybrid meeting, maybe another one of these meetings. And we're going to talk about attics and venting. And as Trevor Michael mentioned, we are looking for a sponsor for that. If you are interested in sponsoring a meeting, we'd love to have you. Just give me a holler. With all that, keep an eye on the calendar at our website and see what we've got coming up. We're planning for a lot this year, and we're proceeding as we can with the COVID. And we will send out a notice if we figure out we're in 1B for the vaccine, which I really hope we are. We want to get that done and out of the way. With that being done, Trevor, that's all I have. I'm going to leave the room open for a little bit so people can talk. And thanks again to our speakers.
All right. All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for coming. And yeah, definitely thanks to our speakers and sponsors and so forth. So
yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. We'll see y'all later on.
All right. Thank you, Stan.